Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Well, hello, and welcome. Want to thank you guys for joining us on tonight as we celebrate our Black Men's History Month. Y'all know we don't officially have a month that recognize our men. So here at Aspiring Authors Magazine and the Crew Podcast for the last 2 years on the podcast and for the last 4 years with the magazine, we have been honoring our kings because I personally feel that society has failed our males and it's up to us to put them on that throne and to help restore them so that they can take their rightful place. And these amazing men that are out here doing an amazing job, they need to be recognized so that they continue the work that they are doing. I'm excited to have tonight Mr. Elijah. He is one of the amazing authors, a part of the 100 author movement. You're going to get an opportunity to hear all about what he do, some of his writings, some things he got coming up. We're gonna get an opportunity to dive into his book, his brand, and all of that. We're gonna catch up with Elijah and see what he got going on. And we're gonna talk about mental health, y'all. That is something that is near and dear to me. As a mental health advocate, I too suffer with mental illness, and it's something that I had to learn to deal with. And we like to bring awareness to so that people will know because it's a stigma in our Black and brown community. Um, we all know some of the stigmas that go behind it. You know, they tell us to pray about it, slap some oil on it, and those things. But sometimes you got to go sit down and talk to somebody and get it out. And tonight we're gonna talk about it. So I want to welcome Elijah to the show. We're going to bring him on up so he can introduce himself because some of you guys may not know who he is. So I'm going to bring him on in the room. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Miss Angela. How about yourself?
I'm great. I can't complain. It does nobody no good.
There you go.
So yet I press.
Hey, just keep on pressing. That's what you got to do.
That's it. Just take it one day at a time. That's what I tell everybody, moment for moment. Because if we are believers and we believe the word tells us that we don't have to worry about tomorrow because tomorrow gonna take care of itself. So we got to focus on now. We can't worry about yesterday because that's already over and done with. So the only
That's
thing we
true.
can focus on is our now, our present. You know, we can't
You
even
know,
worry about what happened 5 minutes ago. So hey, I'm here in the moment, ready to dive in to share with those that are tuned in just a little bit about who you are, what you do, and all of that good stuff. Because it's been a minute since you been on. I think you came on the end of 2024.
No, actually, I think I was on. I was actually on the beginning of 2025.
Oh,
Like
you were
early,
in
yeah,
January.
early January. I
Okay,
was on.
okay. Well, it's been a minute because we at the halfway mark now.
That's true.
So yes, so it's time to catch up. I'm sure you have been doing some things, so we want to know what's been going on. But first, you have to introduce yourself for those that don't know who you are.
Absolutely. Well, again, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Elijah Lewis. I am an author and motivational speaker. I am currently the author of the book "Your Jewels in Your Journey: Life Lessons to Lead to Your Optimal Self." Um, It came out in May of 2023. Took me about 6 months or so to write, but pretty much the little synopsis of the book. It just teaches readers how they can be their optimal self because what I tell people is that we're all on a journey. And on that journey, we typically learn that the life lessons are jewels, but it's also important, especially we're going to talk about tonight with the mental health aspect of, if you need to talk to somebody, those people in your life that can help you be your optimal self are jewels, and once you know those two things, you ultimately learn that you yourself are a jewel. Because I tell people, if you don't know who you are, it's hard to know where you're going. So with this book, it's all about giving you a roadmap to get to your ultimate destination, which is to be your optimal self, and being able to withstand the challenges that life is going to bring you. Because as the old adage is, life be life. And so, definitely, it's all about how you can overcome the challenges in your life, and in order to be your optimal self and live in your purpose that you're meant to be. And also a little bit information about me too. I'm also a software architect slash developer. I work with the Navy. That's my day job as a civilian. So that's a little bit about me. And I'm also from Baltimore, Maryland. Currently living in Waldorf, Maryland.
Wow. So, what made you write the book?
Well, it's kind of interesting because I really thought about some of the experiences that I went through in my own life, and honestly, I think it relates to mental health is the fact that I needed to somewhat write about what I experienced and how at times I felt lost on my journey. Because I tell people I went through a lot of challenges in my life. I had a 2.58 GPA in high school. I was at one point on academic probation. One of the challenges that I really talk about in my book is the fact that I did have the unfortunate experience being a part of, sadly, being a part of a church that ended up actually being in a cult, unfortunately, and how that really impacted me. And what made me really want to write this book is that, like I said, I know what it's like to be lost on my journey, but I didn't want other people to have that same feeling. And I know that God has blessed me to not only, learn a lot of lessons in life, but also I've been blessed to have great people in my corner who have helped me get back on the path where I am today. And so, really, that experience that I went through really was the inspiration for me wanting to write Your Jewels in Your Journey because, like I said, we're all on a journey. And, my philosophy is that, hey, if you pay close enough attention, you can find many jewels on your journey because they're there, whether it be in the form of life lessons or people. So it's just all about, as some people like to say, like looking at it with your spiritual eye, those people that are in your corner who can help you get to that optimal self that you're looking for. So that was really the main motivation of why I wanted to write Your Jewels in Your Journey, by just telling people that, hey, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. But as you talk about in regards to mental health, we are going to go through challenges that are going to try us emotionally. But if we are lucky enough to have the right people in our corner, we can overcome those challenges on our journey to be our optimal self.
Wow, that's powerful. Um, I know you said what made when you were asked to do this book, because I think your friend helped you do this book.
Well,
Was it someone that encouraged you to do this book?
yes, and I've said this story many times, and I love sharing it. I went to expo. It was a Black Empowerment Expo in Waldorf, not too far from where I live. And my publisher was there, and he's an author, motivational speaker himself. If he sees this interview, shout out to my publisher. His name is Matthew C. Horn of Lightning Fast Book Publishing. And Matthew was there, and I bought two of his books. He's an author, motivational speaker himself. And as I'm buying his two books, and there was a lady that said, "Hey, come back a little bit later," because he wasn't at the table at the time. So I come back a little bit later on, um, and I meet him. And he asked these words that I never forget. He said, "Brother, like you got a lot on your mind. You ever think about writing a book?" and and it just shocked me. I'm just like, well, no, I never thought about doing that. I'm like, I haven't written anything major since my scholarly project in grad school. So I'm just like, okay, I'm not thinking about doing that. But the more we conversed and the more I thought about, what I wanted to write about potentially in a book, it just something in my spirit said, okay, you know what, you need to do this. And I think what I always admire about that moment was he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And one of the things that I write in your jewels in your journey is that don't let other people put you in a box, but also you have to learn don't put yourself in a box. Because I tell people too, we all have a journey, but we all have a story to tell too. So really through his, uh, I guess you could say, intuitiveness about what I was asking and things like that, he really inspired me to go ahead and write the book. Because like I said, I had no plans of writing a book. I didn't think that was anything possible I could do, but what I've learned is that as long as you are being genuine to your story, you may not be able to get everybody, but you will inspire the right people. And I think it's possible for anyone to write a book. It's just that you have to have the discipline and know what you want to talk about. But as long as you have that discipline and you know what you want to write about and it's genuine, then it's definitely possible. So yeah, he gave me that. He put the bug in my ear to press forward and go ahead and write the book.
So, since you published the book, what has this journey been like? I know because a lot of people they publish and then they think that immediately they about to be a overnight success. They about to sell 1 million copies. They about to get that big house and they got to get that big car. So what has this journey been like for you? Because I have not experienced that yet. I'm waiting for that to happen for me. So what has your journey been like?
Well, you and me are in the same boat because I'm still waiting for the car in the house too. That that hasn't come quite yet. But on a serious note, I think I am very happy of the success that I've had. I've been able to meet a lot of authors, especially like with what you did with the 100 Authors movement, going to various book festivals and book fairs, and I've had a lot of success from family, friends, and the people I've met at the various events that I do. So I've had great success with the book. In fact, even just recently, I think something I'm really proud of is that I recently got back from Liberia a couple weeks ago, and I actually was able to sell some copies in Liberia. So I can, I guess, say now I'm a international selling author now, which is really something to be proud about. But somebody suggested to me because on that trip we had the opportunity to meet the president of Liberia, and he said, "Hey, why don't you give the president a copy of your book?" And so for me to do that, I never thought that would ever happen. Just to have a president of any country, to have my book, it's like, I mean, who am I for that? But you know, I am proud of the success that I am. It's not an overnight success. I wasn't expecting it to be, but I am thankful that the biggest success I think I have is that I think I realized this is something that I was really meant to do. And I say that in the sense of the fact that I've been able to connect with so many people and at the same time, help and inspire people because people come to me and say, "Hey, Elijah, I enjoyed your book." Especially my elders. When I hear my elders say that really means a lot to me because they don't have to read the book themselves, but when they say, "I enjoyed your book. I want to get this copy for my son, my granddaughter, my niece," things like that really shows that people really care about what I wrote, and that means a lot to me. So that's really the highest level of success that I'm most thankful for. So But hey, if the house and car and things like that come down the road, hey, all blessings be to God. But I'm not going to let that the fact that I don't have that now stop me from moving forward because the way I see it, as long as I'm helping people along the way, then that's the only level of success that I really need.
Wow, that's amazing. And for me, I never thought that I would even be an author. That wasn't something that was in my cards. It was not something that I had put on my to do list, but it happened. And when it happened, it just opened up a lot of other doors. And I still I really don't push my books because it's not something. I mean, I love writing and I love doing anthologies because it gives me an opportunity to allow other people. I I feel like I'm a vessel to allow other people to share their story. So I've been given the opportunity to do anthologies and bring people together and to allow them to share their voices. I say, um, one day down the line, maybe I'll be able to focus on me, and maybe I'll get that memoir out, and then I'll focus on me. But we do have another guest backstage, another author, another male, and he dabbled in, and he's a veteran. He got a lot of stuff and a podcast owner. He got a lot going on, y'all. We're gonna bring him on up and let him introduce himself. And then we're gonna continue with this conversation. So we got Frederick Beatty in the building. Come on in, come on in, come on in. How you doing?
I thought I was muted. What's going on? How are you? How y'all doing?
We're doing pretty good.
Doing
Can't
pretty
complain. Won't
good.
complain.
Good, good, good. Thank you for having me on this Thursday evening. I'm very appreciative of that. Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Lewis.
Yes, sir. Same to meet you too, Mr. Beatty.
Yes, sir. So a little bit about who I am. So first and foremost, I'm a human first, male man second. I am a author with about 10 books to my credit. Five of those as a co-author, and five of those that I've written myself. Um, Working on book number six right now. Um, I'm also a veteran. I served in the United States Navy from 1990 to 1993. That was during Desert Shield, Desert Storm. Um, I was not in the theater of combat. However, I did earn a I did earn a campaign badge and a campaign medal for that. Um, I'm also a I'm also a podcaster. I have my podcast platform is Trailblazers Radio. Um, it's a platform that we talk about a lot of things that Angela talks about, and even more. Um, Lately, right now, I've just been really just jumping into pop culture icons such as Adult Swim, Toonami, etc., and just kind of doing audio stuff about that right now. But that's pretty much who I am at the moment. That's pretty much what I'm doing at the moment, and pretty much who I am.
So, was author always in your cards, or it's just something that happened?
That was never in the cards for me. Never. I never looked at myself as an author. I never saw myself as someone who would have something that was published. Now, I dabbled around a little bit in it, and in high school, writing poetry and stuff like that. And suffice it to say, and this is quiet as kept. Um, Me and my brother did, create a little comic book that we did. I did a lot of the writing, while he did a lot of the drawing, and I did the coloring. So that was something that my mom and my dad were proud of. But writing, nah, that wasn't even in the cards for me at that point. I never looked at that as a gateway to anything.
Right. Well, now that you are here, 10 books later, what has that journey been like?
That has been filled with, just like you guys mentioned, that's been filled with my share of ups, downs, and uncertainties and in betweens. You know, you and I can only say this from my own personal experience. You guys, your experiences may be different or maybe similar. Um, I've never written for recognition. Never written for any kind of limelight, any kind of shine, any kind of spotlight. I've always written because, number one, that was on my heart and spirit to write. Number two, I felt that there was a message that needed to be put out. And then number three, just if for me, if I can touch one person's life, one person can change their lives, or at least be affected by what I've written, and to me, that's a mission complete. But I'm, like you guys, it's been with these ups and downs and these ins and outs, and like anything in life, there are hills and valleys. You have to learn how to navigate those hills and valleys. You know, you got to anticipate when that hill's going to bring you down, and then you also got to know when it's going to take you back up. And so for me, the hills and valleys have always been the thing for me. Now how do I handle that? Normally with quiet, calm, and determination, knowing that this is not this is not the end. This is not the end goal. This is not the end goal for me. The end goal is to reach that person and have that person at least try to change and at least make an attempt to change in some way.
Awesome. And me too. I can mirror what you said as far as um why I write. I write because I feel like there God gave me a message that need to be shared. We have these life experiences that we have experienced that could help somebody. And I feel like it is our duty to share. We have these experience just for that reason so that we can share, because the words say that are we supposed to overcome by hearing and sharing the testimonies, and that's
That's
what
right.
these experiences are. These experiences are tests that we had for a moment, and we
That's
were
right.
able to overcome them so that they could be testimonies for someone else to help them through whatever it is. So I get that. I love that. Because it ain't about accolades with me. It would be great. All that is great if people would
Hmm.
recognize us for the hard work that we do. But at the end of the day, I feel like if one person could be touched by something that I've shared and can change their life, then I feel like I've done that thing that I was placed here to do.
That's right.
Yep,
And then if
absolutely.
other things come along, hey, that's the extras. That's the good, the extras. But I could. That's not what keep me going. That's not what wake me up. That's not what pushes me. That's not what make me do this podcast, this magazine, and bring people together. It's hearing you guys share your story and the reason why you do what you do and the messages that you guys have. You know, you are among a very small percentage of people, because the last I checked, they used to say the bottom 10% it could have rose, because we know a lot of people been publishing, but they say in a lifetime only 10% of the population would be a published author. That's what they say. So you guys have managed to be in a a very small percentage of people. And that is something to be very proud of, because I hear people all the time say that they got a book. They got a book in them. They got a book in them, but then they never get it out. There's a lot of people that has gone on that had books in them that never got them out. So I'm glad, I'm thankful for you guys for sharing and getting your books out there. So, Frederick, I know
Yes,
that
ma'am.
you served our country. Thank you.
Yep.
Um,
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you.
and
My
I know
pleasure.
that being in the service, and I know that a lot of people in the military that often come home and they have mental issues. They suffer from mental issues and often go unserved and unrecognized. And So, what has that been like for you? And what does Men's Mental Health Month mean to you?
Okay, so I'll answer the second question first.
Okay.
So what that means for me is just this is a chance for us. This month is a chance for us as brothers to just, and this is just for men of all ages, all races, denominations. It doesn't matter. Men of all men to come together and just bond and sit down and have a conversation about where we are in our emotions, where we are in our mindsets, and talk about those things at length, and then figure out ways to kind of solve those things, and put those things and get action plans in place so that way we can we can address those issues first and foremost. And then for me, it's about just, I look at it as just a big old thing that helps us improve our quality of life. One of the things I think that a lot of people don't understand, I'm not going to say I'm not going to put this as men and women. I'm just going to say people, because you have guys that don't understand and you have women that don't understand. So people, a lot of people don't understand that, when a person's quality of life is affected, everything else that's below that is affected as well. If my mental health is off, then my quality of life is affected. That means everybody that depends on me, that relies on me, are affected, and they're affected adversely. Even I'm affected adversely because I'm the one that's having a bad day. So I think this is a big thing, a big thing for men to just kind of gather and just sit and talk and and have these real conversations. Not nothing fabricated, not nothing, you know, put on just for the sake of being in front of a camera or in front of a microphone, but have real conversations. And to answer your second question, how to answer that one? Wow. Me being a veteran and going to the VA medical clinics and then going to the VA hospital, especially to get my checkups and things of that nature. It's been thus far, it's been a very good journey, but it hasn't been without its pitfalls. Um, where I live at, the one of the main VA hospitals is not too far from where I live, but for the amount of veterans that come in and out every day, that parking lot stays full. And I know that's a small thing to say, but for someone like me and another veteran, it means a lot, because now certain things are impeded. If you got to park on the very top floor, you got to come all the way down to the bottom to get to the hospital, and then you may be late for an appointment. So and that's not, and I'm not complaining. I'm just pointing out some things. You know, the other thing is that I have a brother and an uncle and a father who served as well. Um, my brother was my brother and my father were the only combat veterans among us. Um, so listening to their stories is has been has been sobering for me. I never served in the theater of combat. My brother has, and my father has. My father served in Vietnam. He never really talked about his experiences. He never talked about his experiences at all. Not for maybe for the sake that we were too young or whatnot. But as we got older, we got a little bit more about learning what his experiences are. Um, and I'm also learning that the one thing that I did learn, that a lot of things that afflicts, that quote unquote afflicts veterans, doesn't always come from being in a combat zone. Someone can have PTSD well before they get into a combat zone. I served in the military, but suffer from PTSD, not from being in the military, but from going through the trauma of losing a child. You know, I suffer a little bit from anxiety. Not this isn't from being in the military; it's from losing a child. I think the other thing that I think that a lot of people misconstrue about us as veterans is that the things that all the things that we experience as veterans are just all lumped up into one thing. You served and you served and obviously you went to a zone of combat. No, not everybody that serves goes to a theater of combat. But there are other things that going on outside of a theater of combat. There can be other things that happen. You know, someone could be can be seriously injured on a job. That can affect that person's quality of life. That can also affect their mental health. So everything that happens doesn't happen in a combat zone. But that's the misconception, and that's one of the things I try. Me and several other veterans that I know are trying very hard to try to buck and try to get rid of. But I think the other thing, the main important thing, and I'll leave it with this. One of the main important things I think that's important is that some people I think, and this is just my thought process. It could be anybody else's thought process. A lot of people think that just because we served means we're okay, or means that we served and we walked out of that service whole. It's not true. I got a father and a brother that can prove that are proof positive of that. My dad went into Vietnam one person, came out a whole different person. My brother went me and my brother served and me and my brother went into the Navy at the same time. He got out a year after I did. He was over in the Gulf of Bahrain on combat operations. We both we both went in one person, walked out two different people. So just because, I mean, people don't think that changes you, but it does.
No, I get it. I truly do. My nephew is serving right now, and he's been serving for the last, I keep saying 6 years, but he told me it was 8. For the last 8 years, he's
Oh
been
no,
serving,
you lose track of time. You lose track of time in the military. Trust me.
and yeah, he's getting ready to deploy um on the 24th. He just come back from Hawaii yesterday, and he's
Hmm.
getting ready to go to Bahrain. He's headed over to Bahrain on the 24th. Um, and this is his third um this is his third round because he was gone for,
Third deployment.
yeah, this is his third deployment. But he
People
went,
don't people don't understand those things change you as a person. You know, it does. You know,
and I
you leave
seen the
one person, you
difference.
come back another.
Yeah, yeah. It he has a lot of anxiety issues now. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, but yeah. So yeah, definitely. I love what you're talking about, because yeah, we need to start having we need to start having more open conversations, and not so much of trying to do it for the camera. Yeah, we need to have these open conversations where we can truly be ourselves and really talk about what is bothering us. Um, it wasn't until I went through my domestic violence that I realized that I truly was dealing with some mental issues. um, didn't know that I had been dealing with depression for a
Mm.
long time.
Mm.
Didn't know that, I had been dealing with some grief issues because I lost my mom 12 days after my 16th birthday and really never really grieved that. So when I went through the domestic violence, I found out a lot of stuff about me when I had to go sit down on that couch and talk to. I had to, because it shook me. I developed, I forget what the name of that PTSD that they say. It's not the normal PTSD that they say I got. It's some other kind. I can't even remember because it just but it's not the regular PTSD that they say I have. But Frederick, when I tell you, it took me for a loop. I actually had to see a psychiatrist, and I had to see two therapists.
Mm.
To
Mm.
I'm telling you, I had to, because when I began to deal with, we started out dealing with me being shot in the domestic violence, and then as I began to go into that, it got deep because I went back to childhood and having to deal with stuff that I didn't even know was going on. You know what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
I learned so much about myself that I did not. But when I'm glad I did, because now I'm able to, when I feel some of these things coming up, I know what they are now. So I know how to handle them. And if I can't handle them myself, I know who I can call. I'm thankful for my therapist friends that look like me, and can refer me to somebody if they can't help me. And that's what I'm so glad about, because a lot of us, we ran away from getting the help that we needed and deserved, because we didn't have nobody that we felt could relate to us or understood us or to really, feel the things that we felt.
Right.
Right. So it was
I
hard
agree.
for a lot of us to go sit down on those couches and pour out to people. So yeah, I'm thankful for those black and brown therapists that did the work. And even the therapists even say they got to have therapists and stuff to
Mm.
deal with
Yeah.
what they. So I'm thankful that we're doing what we need to do so that we can be better. And when we do that, then we can help those next to us. We can help our families, and then it begins to trickle out into our neighborhoods, and then it begin to trickle out throughout out the nation, and then we all can begin to heal.
Yeah.
But it all starts with us, and I'm glad that we all sitting here today decided to do the work so that we could be vessels to help someone else, because like they say, hurt people hurt, heal people can help others heal too.
Yeah.
So
But the one thing I also want to kind of add to that, and I know Mr. Elijah will probably agree with me on this one. It starts with us recognizing that we're humans first, and then man or woman second.
Mm.
We have to get to that. We have to get to that point first, because all human beings have emotions and have feelings.
right,
So for someone to say that a man doesn't have feelings, because no, that's a lie, because he's a human being just like you are. So we have to get back to the human aspect of this first and foremost, because if we don't understand the human aspect of it, we'll never understand the male or the female aspect of it.
right,
Break it down, start with the human aspect. Okay, he's human, he's got feelings. Let's start there first, and then dive deeper into the male or female, dive deeper into the male aspect of it. It's crazy because I've had to repeat that phrase to people in other settings, because it's always been this crazy thing that say, well, you a man, you supposed to be this and you're supposed to be that. Hold on, wait a minute. How now, brown cow? No, ma'am. I'm human first and foremost. Man secondly. Man second.
right.
If you cut me, I'm gonna bleed just like you will.
Exactly.
Yep. Facts.
That
I put
part.
I put my pants on. I put my pants on the same way you do. One leg first and the other leg next.
Exactly.
So
And see, that's what we got to realize as humans. We got to realize that we all can experience the same thing.
mhm.
You know, we all, and then Elijah, come on, jump on in the conversation anytime you want to, because I know this is right up your alley too.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Well, and I wanted to answer, like, especially the second part of your question, Miss Angela, like with what does men's mental health awareness month mean to me? I really think we're seeing that it allows the stigma of men not reaching out for mental health to be broken. Because I
Mhm.
say this as a millennial. Even in my lifetime growing up, I didn't really hear much conversations about mental health. I just
Mm-mm.
never heard much about it. I just, I kind of was kind of raised with that same mentality almost too, where it's like, hey, you just press through it, you know, for example, I shared earlier, one of my traumatic experiences, unfortunately, was that I had to spend 10 years of my life in a cult. I was this is not against all Hebrew Israelites, but the group that I was a part of was a Hebrew Israelite group. And I was a part of that group from when I was 6 to about almost 17. And one of the things that, looking back, that just never made sense to me was like they kept telling everybody, "Well, hey, we're all catching hell, we're all going through problems." But it's like, but why? I mean, because we've all read the Bible. Christ said, in me you should have, in the world you should have tribulation, but in me you should have peace. So, why is everyone struggling financially, being taken advantage of? And that's something that the mentality of that is that, hey, you just you got to just embrace the fact that you're going through it. Keep praying; it'll be all right. Don't worry about it. But what I can say I've learned now is that, for example, I had the opportunity to be on a Zoom call with the mental health organization called Our Wellbeing LLC, and they did a topic focusing on the mental health of millennials and Gen Zers. And
Mm.
for a lot of people on that call, like I said, for myself, even as a millennial, we just didn't talk about mental health like that. And I really have to give credit to Gen Z because I know we like to joke with them about what they're doing wrong and things like that, but you have to give them credit. I think they were the first generation to say we're not going to fall for that mentality of we're going to just pray our problems go away. Again, nothing wrong with prayer by any means. So I think prayer is really great, but there has to be, as the Bible says, faith without works is dead. So definitely, that maybe the answer to your prayer is, hey God, I'm asking you to heal me from this trauma. Well, maybe God's like, hey, you saw that therapist that you ran into in the store the other day that you said you were good and you want to talk to. That was the answer to your prayer right there. So so beside the fact that we're going to just pray away our problems, or we're going to get the alcohol, or we're going to light the weed and try to make it all go away. Gen Z was like, no, we're going to embrace the fact that we are not okay, and it's not going to be stigmatized. And really, the advantage that they have, and you also can include now Generation Alpha as well, that they're growing up in a world that they don't have to worry about that stigma anymore, especially as men, because I think, as Brother Frederick was saying, as men, we're almost taught to be robotic. Like, we can't show any weakness. We can't show that we have to show that we're always in control no matter what is affecting us. And I think with the rise of Mental Health Awareness Month, you realize that, you know, as men, it is okay for us to have these conversations. Because I remember our Wellbeing LLC did a wind down wellness retreat back in December, and they separated the men and the women in these healing circles. And for me, that was really a great opportunity just to learn, like, like Mr. Frederick's talking about, like, hey, what is a real man? How can a man show emotion and not be considered weak, or you know effeminate or whatever? So you really learn a lot, and I think it really inspires you to go on a journey of your own healing too. So I really think that's the what Men's Mental Health Month, what Men's Mental Health Awareness Month means to me, is that it just shows that, hey, we can break the stigma as men, and know that, hey, it's okay if we are not okay, and that we can talk to somebody um, about our problems, and hopefully we can be guided in the right direction moving forward. Because one thing about us as men, I'm sure Mr. Beater will probably agree on this as well. Is that, we're designed to be problem solvers, so we want
Yep.
to solve problems. We want to be the fixer, but it's hard to fix things when you haven't been fixed yourself. So, and I
Who
think that,
fixes the fixer?
yeah, exactly. It's like, you can't heal people when you're sick yourself. So I think for us, learning to take moments like this, have conversations like this, allows us to be healed. As like you said, Miss Angela, is heal people who can inspire people along the way. And and like you said, hurt people do hurt people, but I've actually heard people say this too, is that really it's that unhealed people hurt people. And that's why we get that cycle of trauma, because when you're not healed, it's only natural. Well, it's not natural per se, but in your subconscious mind, probably it's natural to just hurt other people because you've been hurt. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty much what it means to me. And I'm just thankful that you brought us on the podcast to talk about this because definitely it's something that all of us as men really need to take the time to slow down, stop, and think about what we've been through. And that's kind of what it was with me with writing. Writing, I would say to some degree might as well save my life. Because I just didn't
Mm,
understand what I went through until I took that time to be still and actually write my experiences and what I was feeling, from those experiences on paper. So, I think, not to say that writing will be a replacement for therapy, but I do think it can be somewhat of a helpful guidance to give you give you some answers to your question that you've been experiencing because, you know, it's either A, you write them down and express your feelings, or you keep it locked in and that's just going to bubble to the surface and make things worse. So definitely
mm. I
moments like
got you on that one, brother. I do, and I think for me, writing and to add to your point, writing became writing became cathartic for me.
hmm
Became like that thing I looked forward to um, every time I got in front of like my laptop or I got in front of or I grabbed my pen and a pad. It became that place where I could write about what I was feeling and and be okay afterwards. You know,
Yes.
if I wrote it down on a piece of paper or I wrote about what I felt, what I what my day how my day was, and then I expressed that emotion, I felt good afterwards. I really did.
absolutely.
And then also, I found another outlet too, besides just the writing. I'm a the I'm admitting I'm a huge gamer. So video games is the other thing. The other thing for me that is another good outlet for me. Um and as weird as this is gonna sound, and I'm gonna say this because I think I said it before, and this was like a couple of years ago. For me, in some instances, the proximity of my emotions is sometimes tied to the game that I play.
hmm
Um, and I've said this to a bunch of people before. I play, I play games for enjoyment, a little bit of a challenge, but but mostly for me just to disconnect for a bit and then come back. You know, I know people think, well, that's an obsession with that you didn't. No, it's a way that there's a way that I can relate and that way that I can release. If you leave me alone, let me be on Call of Duty for like 30 minutes to an hour, I'll be cool.
Right.
Leave
That's your
let
self
me
care.
let me be on let me be on COD for a minute and then let me come back. But the question that I was asked to me is like they asked me, well, what is the proximity of your emotions when it comes to video games? I said, well, for me, and again, this is gonna sound really, really weird coming from a guy, but I play mostly I play mostly if it's a like a role playing game or something that allows me to choose the type of character that I want. I play mostly female characters. There's a reason behind that. For me, the female characters have a lot more emotional depth. They deliver the lines with a lot more emotional clarity, and it's a lot more relatable to me. Not This is not to say that the male characters aren't capable of doing that, but I relate more to the female characters. If it's a man character and I get to choose whether it's a male or female, I pick the female all the time because there's an emotional connection to the lines that they're speaking that it holds more emotional depth for me. And I know that that's a weird thing to say, but I tell folks that all the time, and they look at me like, yeah, that is weird. I'm like, it's not weird. It's how I can it's how I connect with my emotions. If someone's feeling like if there's that part of a where there's grief part of a game where there's grief involved and that person delivering those lines and it's hitting home with me, of course I'm going to immediately relate. Or I'm
Right.
going to immediately kind of empathize and recognize with that. I think and this is something that I said before. I think a lot of people, again, I'm not going to say men or women, a lot of people don't realize the proximity of their emotions, where they could be tied to, where they could be linked to, what they could be where they could come from. It could come from a book, like it could come from you writing a book, something that's cathartic. It could come from playing a game. It could come from exercising. It can come from just sitting, just sitting down and meditating. No one really knows the proximity of one's emotions until they start exploring their emotions, exploring what makes them tick, what makes them angry, what makes them happy, what makes them sad, what makes them anxious, what puts them in protective mode, what puts them in defense mode, what puts them in aggressive mode, things of that nature. You never understand the proximity of your emotions until you start exploring them.
Right.
One of the things I
Absolutely.
think, one of the things, and you mentioned this before, and I want to just emphasize it. One of the things I think a lot of people think is kind of a thing that they miss is a lot. They don't think us as men can be in tune with that, and that's not true.
Yeah, and I think another thing too is that because you talk about being in tune with our, our emotions, I think we had this conversation when I was in the healing circle with our Wellbeing LLC back in December. I think as men, the only emotion we have been taught that we can express and no one will ever say anything bad about it is anger. That's about it. I mean,
Man,
that's like the only, unfortunately, that's like, I mean, we can show emotion, we can be happy, we can be joking, but, it's like, okay, anger is like the only other emotion we can show. And if it's not happiness or anger, you can't show any sadness. You can't do all that. Like, I'm sure, Mr. Frederick, I didn't hear this much in my lifetime growing up, but maybe you did. The whole adage that, hey, boys don't cry,
oh
you
God,
can't show any emotion. It's just like I said, it's like we've been taught to only be in touch with certain emotions and not,
put some dirt
any.
on it. It'll be all right.
Yep, yep, there you go. Right.
Put some dirt on it. It'll be all right.
You
I've,
know,
dude, I've heard that on more than one time, more than one occasion as a kid. You know, if you hurt yourself, oh nah, just put some dirt on, it, he'll be okay. Or better yet, get up, dust yourself off. It's
Hmm.
okay. Those things, those attitudes and dispositions don't translate in today. They don't translate in today's society. They don't translate in today's culture where being emotionally intelligent and being in tune with your emotions is more or less not even a requirement. It's something that you have to do. I mean, and I don't, and you could probably agree with me. You guys can agree with me on this one. I don't think I can say this for me. I was never taught by my father or my father or my uncles or anybody like that to be emotional, how to be in tune with that. I wasn't taught any of that. Wasn't given the handbook on any of that. And that's and I don't blame my father for that because he probably wasn't taught either. So I can't blame my father for not teaching me something that he wasn't taught. It took me till I got 19 years old in the military, going through some emotional stuff, and now having to deal with the upheaval of what I was feeling, homesick, depressed, um, anxious, a little bit on the defensive. I'm going through the whole gamut of all these emotions all at one time, and having no place to let all that go, let all that out, and it was a disaster. I mean, I can't. I can say this for my own. I was a wreck at that point. I don't think I was cool until I don't think I was okay mentally, or at least I thought I was okay mentally to until I got out of my service school and went to my first place of duty. And even then I wasn't okay.
mm,
You know, you think you're okay when everything passes. And I say this to some brothers that I talk to all the time. You think you're okay when everything passes. When all
yes,
those emotions flood in you and then they pass over you and they pass through you. You think you're okay when it passes. But there's still residue there. Remnants of the
yes,
anxiety, of the PTSD, the anger, the disappointment, the hurt, all there's residue still there. That residue still lingers, and then that residue builds back up into those emotions you thought that you buried a long time ago.
yes, absolutely, yeah. Because you think the further you've gotten away from that pain or that trauma, you think, okay, it doesn't affect me. And that's what I told people. That's one of the biggest things I learned when I wrote my book. Is it's like I did not understand what I was going through until I took time to really write my book, because I was under that same impression, like, hey, that was the past, that was years ago, that doesn't affect me. But like, it's like that old adage, wherever you go, there you are. So it's like, if you
Exactly.
still have the residue, as you said, of the trauma and that pain, it doesn't matter if it's 5 years, 10 years, or 50 years. It'll still affect you if you don't take the time to process what you went through and learn how you can heal from that. So yeah, and I think that's the thing we've been kind of taught as men, where it's like, hey, we just shake it off. Like you said, put some dirt on it. Of course, that's talking about like physical pain, but we do the same thing like with emotional pain. Like, hey, I'm gonna just bury that, never deal with that, and it's gonna be okay. But it's like until you take the time to understand what you went through, yeah, it'll still follow you wherever you go, if you don't take the time to learn from it.
For sure, for sure. One of the things I've talked, and I've said this with a good friend of mine. It goes back to it goes back to looking at the little boy that's inside of you. There's
Mm,
a little boy and there's a little girl that dwells in all of us as human beings. Whether it's a little boy that dwells in us as men, and there's a little girl that dwells in females as women. You have to go back to that little boy that's inside of us, and of course, acknowledge what you've been, acknowledge what you've subjected that little boy to. Of course, but in the same instance, instead of trying to slap band-aids on all these wounds and whatever stages of healing they're in, instead of trying to slap band-aids on it, just embrace that little boy and apologize. I'm sorry that I put subjected you to all this hurt and all this pain, all these things in my life that I subjected you to. I'm sorry. And then to me, confronting that little boy and apologizing to that little boy, that's the forgiveness part. That's the forgiveness of self part.
yes.
The hard part, the even harder part, is seeking the forgiveness of others. And I ain't gonna lie, that was a hard part for me. Forgiveness of self was somewhat of a difficult journey, but asking other people to forgive me, and then asking, you know, forgiveness from other people, and or asking people to give me forgiveness, dude, that was rough. And it was a hard journey. And mental health and for me, mental health begins with that part of it. Looking inside yourself, seeing what parts of you are broken, and doing your very best to fix those parts. It don't got to be perfect. A lot of people, one of the misconceptions, I think, when people, especially when us as brothers, when we talk about healing ourselves, we figure it's got to be perfect, or it can't happen. No, no, dude, it don't got to be perfect. It don't got to be perfect. As long as you're doing the work to make that solid foundation to get to that road to healing, it don't got to be perfect. It can be a ramshackle road, but as long as that road's holding up and
Okay.
you're able to pass that vehicle over there, you're good.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
As
Yep.
long as you can, as long as it can hold, as long as it's able to hold the weight, is good. And you mentioned it earlier, Elijah, that a lot of us as men deal with physical weight is something that a lot of us as men can deal with. We can deal with physical weight. We can pick it up, we can put it down, we can hold it up for a little bit, things of that, and we're cool with that because that's how we're built. It's the emotional weight that a lot of us as men, myself included, are not always equipped to deal with
Yes.
because again, no one taught us how to pick up that weight and put it back down. No one taught us that if it's too much of a load on your airplane, to jettison some of that stuff. We take all that weight, we take it in, we take it in, we take it in, we take it in, and all of a sudden we're way down, almost like an elephant's got all four of his legs on your chest,
Yep.
and you'll be happy if the elephant take one leg off your chest.
Mm.
And a lot of us as men walking, we do. I'm dead serious. I mean, I can attest. I can say this for myself because there have been days that I do that. We walk around like everything's cool, but little do people know that we got this elephant on our back, all 4 feet are on our shoulders, and we're being weighed down. And that elephant represents the world.
Yes.
It represents the represents the world's conceptions of us, society's conceptions of us, our women's conceptions of us, our children's conceptions of us, our own conceptions of us. Not to
Mhm.
mention all the thoughts that we battle with day in and day out with it, day in and day out. And how you gonna get that off? How you gonna get that off you? It's already heavy. You done already picked up you done already took in so much. Well, you better start. I mean, and I told a friend of mine, look, and he didn't. This is literally just recently, dude. You gotta let some of that stuff go, man. It's
Yes.
you got too much weight on you. But I don't know
Yes.
how to do that. First of all, well, if you don't know how to do that, then you might want to ask someone to show you how to do it. If
Yes.
you a lot of us again, a lot of us as men, and Mr. Elijah can attest to this. A lot of us as men have been taught to not say nothing, to be
Hmm.
silent, to be reticent, to just sit there and be like, it's okay. Keep it coming. I can take it.
Yes. Absolutely.
But then when the burden gets too much and the cracks in the building show, or the cracks in the dam show, and then all of a sudden that dam breaks,
Yes.
what it's the people that's the people that's in front of that dam that get the emotional they get that emotional tsunami. They get
Hmm.
that
Yep.
emotional wave that comes at them, and they don't know how to deal with it because it's coming directly at them. And now
Yeah.
they're caught up in this wave, and they're they're unintentional casualties.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you realize the signs were there all along. Like I know one of the things we do, like is my job is civilian in the Navy. Like we have to take certain training, and they tell you like look for certain characteristics of somebody who's unstable or maybe an
Hmm.
insider threat, things like that, and or workplace violence. That's one, something like that. And they show you like people think like, oh yeah, this person just snapped. It's like no, they didn't really they didn't snap. They showed you signs the whole
Hmm.
time. The
Hmm.
problem was like, we've been taught. I'll put all of us in this category. We've been taught to kind of ignore those signs. Say,
North
well,
stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah.
that's my
We could.
business. That's I don't know. Well, I don't want to risk my relationship with this person. But when you let a person really just self destruct in front of your face, it's like you can't be surprised when, as Mr. Frederick said, the emotional tsunami comes because that's really all that. And I've been there. I've been that person who I just let something build up inside of me too much, and just like, okay, now I just unleash that on everybody. It's just like
Hmm.
I looking back at it, it's like I could have handled that differently, but because I didn't, I let the emotion build up inside of me. Eventually, it's going to reach a boiling point. It's like when you boil water. At some point, when that temperature gets to 212 degrees Fahrenheit or 100 degrees Celsius, you're going to start seeing that steam come out the kettle. So if you don't
Hmm.
take the steps to deal with that emotion, then yeah, it's gonna you risk putting other people, in danger. I think
Exactly.
a perfectly
Yes.
a perfect example of that, I'll say this real quick. I really I think a lot of people read me when I say this. Like for example, I am a huge Will Smith fan, but look at what happened at the whole thing with the Oscars a couple years ago with that.
Man.
You could talking about a man's mental health for a second. You can see the pain the man was dealing with, and I
Hmm.
think And I think my dad and I had this conversation because, for example, Will has always been that actor who's always had the clean image, who's had that pressure of giving you that, who's had to have the pressure of dealing with that I have to be clean, like I don't curse in my records, like I'm
Hmm.
this happy, positive, family friendly guy. And when, as you said, Mr. President, though, there was some cracks starting to show in his personal life, and people and everybody and their mama was talking about it. It reached a boiling point to the point where he was necessarily wasn't. I can't say he wasn't angry what happened between August and Jada, but the point is that when Chris Rock made that joke about Jada's hair, it just got to a boiling point where he just went up on that stage and slapped that man like he didn't know what hit him. But that's a perfect example of, I think, is when men have to go with that. When you've been told to try to keep it together, don't let it affect you. If you keep that mentality, you're going to see a moment like that. Not hopefully not to the point where you slap another person, because that's assault. But the point of it is when you don't deal with those emotions. In other words, the emotions are going to start dealing with you. So
Exactly.
definitely,
Hmm.
that's a perfect example. And like I said, I'm still a diehard Will Smith fan. I love the man, his music, his movies, and everything. But you know, my heart goes out to him like
I
that
mean,
because
I'm agree with you. I mean,
because
that's
he showed everybody what happens when a man's mental health is drastically affected.
yep. And I tell folks all the time, if you see somebody and you know they about to explode, don't get mad when you get caught and you didn't help. Don't get mad when you get caught up in the blast radius
Yes,
because
absolutely.
you had the
Exactly.
opportunity, to help, you had the ability to help, and you didn't.
Yes.
And now the person exploded, and now you mad because you got caught in the blast radius. Well, you should have helped.
Right. Or it's not the fact that people are mad. It's like, oh my gosh, I just can't believe that person did that. What
Surprise.
came over him?
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, I am just so offended. Like, how could he do that? It's just like you said, like you kind of saw this. It's
What
like,
are you offended for? You saw the signs.
yes, you
You saw
saw the
it. And,
signs.
and that's just like when family members say, "Oh, that's just Johnny. Oh, that's just how Johnny is. That's
Oh
just how
God.
that's just how
Yeah,
Sally is. Oh,
yeah,
that's just how Paul is. That's just how they are." They accept it and they want you to accept it when they know that it's not okay. That
yes,
That's
these
pain.
behaviors need to be addressed and these things need to be addressed. But then that's how we brush it off when we don't want to deal with it.
But the
yes,
funny thing about that is, Angela, is that, and this is a sad thing to say, is that we as a people, we do that all the time. We do that all the time. We're the ones that paint the caricatures of each other. That's just Angie. That's just Fred. That's just Elijah. When someone
When something happens.
acts out in a way, we paint those caricatures of each other all the time, and that's that's considered normal for us now because we've been so used to painting these caricatures of each other, especially when wrong behavior is displayed.
Hmm.
hmm
It's normal, like, and people when they look at it, oh, that's just how they are. That's just them, and they shrug their shoulders, and it's like no big deal, and no one wants to address the issue at hand. Why is this person acting like this? Why is this person feeling
That
like
part.
this? Why does this person has the unction to remove themselves from this plane of existence? Let's get to the root of that and figure out why that is, and then we can kind of deal with everything else outside of that. Let's get to the root of it. The one thing I've always said, there's an origin to everything.
yes,
There's
absolutely.
an origin to everything. Then, like you mentioned, domestic violence doesn't start with just a man or a woman hitting on the opposite the other person. There's an origin to that. There's
Hmm.
always an origin to that. Maybe it happened in their family sometime somewhere down the line, or maybe they witnessed it with a friend, or whatever. So there's always an origin to where we are, as far as, especially when it comes to our emotional or our mental health. There's an origin to that. There's a reason why some men shut down and don't talk. Well, I won't say some. Where most men shut down and don't want to talk. There's a reason why most of us as men are in perpetual anger mode or perpetual anger mode all the time. Like David Banner when he said that to Captain America. Oh, don't worry, Steve, don't worry, Captain. I'm always angry. And then immediately transfer him to the Hulk and punches something. Come on now. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like, why when you ask somebody why they're angry and they tell you they don't know. Yeah, you do. You know why you're angry all the time. There's something that triggers that anger. Again, origin and triggers. But one of the things we don't want to do, again, this is sad to say, and I'm not saying this, and this is we don't want to dig deep and go to get to that origin because we're afraid. Well, because we're afraid if we dig too deep and we find out the origin for that, that's gonna scare the hell out of us. We don't want to look at
And then
ourselves in the mirror.
some people don't want to truly heal. Some people
Mm.
want to stay in their mess, and they want to stay having a pity party and stay having that on them.
Stay over there.
I want to be healed. I want to be healed. So I'm thankful for these conversations. I'm thankful for individuals that's willing to share their journey and really willing to share their experiences so that other people don't have to go through what we've been through and can find alternative, because what may work for me may not work for Frederick, may not work for you. And if we can grab a nugget from Frederick, grab a nugget from Elijah, grab a nugget from whoever, and we can just get these nuggets and apply them to our lives. It's just having those experiences and just having the outlook is what matters to me. And I'm thankful for you guys just coming on here sharing. Y'all, whew, before we wrap it up, y'all, we gotta let everybody know how they can connect with you guys and how they can get some of your literature. So, Frederick, how can they follow you? And then Elijah, we want to be able to connect with you too. So, Frederick, how can we follow you? How can we support you?
Oh man, so many ways to do that. So many ways to do that. Well, first of all, if you want to just follow me as an individual, you can follow me on Facebook under Frederick Beatty. I'm also on Instagram under Mr. underscore Beatty. Um, if you want to follow the platform, you can follow the platform on YouTube. That's Trailblazers with a Z radio, and on YouTube, on Facebook. Um, I'm also on TikTok. I do plan on doing some live streams on TikTok very soon. If you guys want to listen to the podcast, we're on Spotify. We're on Amazon Music. We're on Apple. We're on Apple. We're pretty much we're anywhere where streaming audio is sold. But if you want to listen to the crux of us, our main distribution place is on Spotify. So you can catch us on Spotify at Trailblazer Radio. Um, as far as my books are concerned, you can find those books on Amazon under FLBD. That's my first initial and first initial and my middle initial. They're on Amazon. Um, I mean, any support you guys do, whether it's a follow, whether it's a like, whether it's a share, whether it's a comment, um, or even if you purchase a book and leave a review for the book. I mean, any of those things help me out immensely. I just want to say that I'm very thankful and very grateful to having um, the first of all being here with you and Mr. Elijah, Mr. Lewis. Number one, number two, just being able to being having a support system that I have. Um, it means a lot to me to have the type of people that surround me, to encourage me, to hold me to account, to keep me on mission. I would be remiss if I didn't mention those people. Angela, you're one of those people. We talked earlier, and that you put an idea in my head. Now I'm going to implement that idea. So it's people like you and Monica and other people that that support me, that keep my spirits up, but also keep me on mission. So I appreciate that.
Well, that's my job. That's what I'm here for. Mr. Elijah,
Yes, ma'am.
how can we support you? How can we follow you? How can we stay connected?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, again, Miss Angela, thank you for letting me come on the show. It was an honor to also connect with Mr. Beatty. I love this conversation. I definitely learned a lot. This conversation like this are definitely well needed. So I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Yeah, so if you all would like to stay connected with me, you can follow me. I am on Instagram. My Instagram is Melanin King Eli. I am on Facebook. You can send me a request at Elijah K. Lewis. I also have a Facebook page for Your Jewels in Your Journey, which is Your Jewels in Your Journey, which is our Facebook page as well. I'm also on LinkedIn at Elijah Lewis. And as far as if you want to support and get a copy of my books, learn about what I offer as far as motivational speaking, you can go to my website at www.elijahlewis.org. You can get your purchase your signed copy from me, learn more about my motivational speaking, learn more about the events that we have coming up, And definitely, you can also stay connected. And in fact, I'll say this as well, because in honor of PTSD Awareness Month and Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, I'm also partnering with an organization called Salute to Duty, and Salute to Duty really focuses on helping veterans through service dogs who have suffered from PTSD. Again, we thank all
Ooh.
of our veterans who have served and are continuing to serve, and my godfather is over that company. He also happens to be my manager of Your Jewels and Your Journey too. And what we're doing is for the next 22 books that I sell, we're also going to throw in. Give me a second. We're also going to throw in one of his. I don't know if you can see it, but we're throwing one of his lapel pins too. And what
Mm.
we're going to do is after we sell 22 books, we're going to have a raffle. Thinking about is the prize is going to be probably $50, but the goal of that is that we want people to focus on self care. And this is not just for veterans or not necessarily just for men. This can be for anybody who wants to participate. But the goal is what we're trying to do is just show you all that we want you all to focus on taking some time for yourself, whether that is you want to go to the movies, you want to maybe you do want to spend the money to go talk to somebody and get therapy, or you want to just take a trip somewhere, whatever you want to do. It's all about self care and focusing on you, because a lot of
Right.
times we put other people ahead of ourselves a lot. So we need to have those moments where we focus on ourselves for a few minutes before we go back and associate with everybody else. So again, that's something that we're doing for the next 22 books. Right now, I've sold two of them, so I still got 20 more slots left. So if you'd like to get in that raffle, definitely purchase your copy, and I'll definitely sign your book and send you your lapel pin as well. So yeah, just again, Miss Angela, thank you so much for the opportunity, and definitely looking forward to more opportunities with you and brother Frederick and many of the other authors in the 100 Authors movement.
Oh, just so you know, man, I followed you on Instagram, bro.
Okay, all right. As soon as we get off, I'm gonna follow you back. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, I definitely want to thank both of you guys for stopping by and sharing with me on tonight, because mental health is near and dear to my heart, and I am my brother's keeper. I hold my men up. My one of my things is I want to help you retake your thrones, because I know that society has failed you guys, and I want to do my part to help you
Mm.
guys to reclaim your thrones, because you are kings, worthy kings that are worthy of honor. And I thank you guys for coming on and being transparent tonight and sharing, in hopes that it would help somebody else that may be going through or may think that they're alone on this journey. So I definitely thank you guys, and continue to be a voice. I thank you for being a voice.
Oh, you
So
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
before we leave, since we don't did the giving out of the information, I always ask my guests to leave the listeners with something encouraging. So Elijah, what's your encouraging thought for tonight as we close?
I think just going back to the topic that we talked about. For the men who are listening, uh, just always know there's no shame or there's no weakness in getting help. If you're not okay, don't let the stigma of thinking that it's weak that you talk to somebody or you try to reach out and get help stop you from doing that. You can still be a man, you can still be masculine, and at the same time you can still get help too, because that's something we all need along the way. None of us can go through this journey on our own, and honestly, why would you? It's always better to have the help of other people when you can get it. So if you're whatever you're going through, know that there are people out there who can help you be the best version that you can be. Like I said earlier, that's one of the jewels on your journey is finding those people who help inspire you to be your optimal self. So, don't let the stigma of, you know, it's being weak to get help or anything like that stop you. No, you can still be who you are as a man, but at the same time, get the help you need so that you can be the man that you are meant to be. Because we all have a purpose. Both men and women, but especially as men, definitely don't be afraid to seek help and know that there are people out there who want to see you win, who want to see you succeed. And like Sister Angela said, we all are our brother's keepers. So definitely let's look out for one another and just continue to uplift each other because, as Booker T. Washington said, if you want to lift yourself up, lift up someone else. So definitely, that's my nugget that I'd like to leave everyone for tonight.
Hmm.
Well, thank you for that. And Mr. BD?
So I'm gonna elaborate a little bit on what Mr. Lewis just said, but I'm gonna quote something from Lao Tzu. Um, and I quote: "The journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step."
Yes, there you go. Yes.
So, in saying that, the emotional, the emotional us me, being us men, the emotional spectrum is a human experience. We as men are not. We're not exempt from that. If we're going to be the men, if we're going to be the men of standard, the men that can stand up in any season, we're gonna have to be able to embrace the emotional spectrum, the entire emotional spectrum, and all of its nuances, all of its happiness, all its ugliness that goes along with it. If we don't do that as men, there's no growth, there's no progress, there's no there's no man of standard. And I'm not saying to be I'm not saying this to be completely open in everything, but I'm saying it to allow yourself to feel,
Mm,
allow yourself to be, allow yourself to break down, allow yourself to cry, allow yourself to acknowledge when you're not feeling well emotionally or mentally. And as I said it before, that quote from Lao Tzu, it starts with one step. That one step becomes two, two becomes three, and so forth. As long as you're taking those steps, forward steps. Now it doesn't. Now taking backward steps is a thing. So you can't take 5 steps backward to go 2 steps forward. That's a thing. It's not a bad thing. But as long as you're moving forward, you're okay. That's mine. That's what I got for you.
Well, I want to thank you guys for joining me on tonight. I appreciate you guys so, so much. And I want you guys to come back anytime you want to and share. I appreciate you. And I hope that you guys have a great night. I want to thank everyone that has tuned in. I hope that you guys were blessed by something that was shared. And I want you to help me to apply these amazing men for the job that they do because oftentimes we don't like to give them the recognition that they deserve. I thank them for coming on and being transparent on tonight. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I hope that you were blessed by something that was shared on tonight. If you were blessed by something that was shared on tonight, share these nuggets with someone else. Share this broadcast with someone else so that they too can be blessed. I want you guys to tune back in on tomorrow night. We have Shining will be in the building, y'all. Bad to business. See y'all tomorrow night.